this next segment, what we're going to be touching on with the vehicles we've been talking about, off-road capability, reliability, fuel efficiency, performance, along with Aussie trucks versus the US trucks and some of the myths that go with it. That's all. So, off-road capability, I think we need to start with Toyota, I guess, because the off-road side of things and the reliability with a Toyota, I don't think anybody can deny.
No. It's there. That's one of the things with 79 series.
Yep.
If something does break, pretty much anywhere around Australia, any wrecker is going to have that part, or they're going to be able to get that part that you need for a 79. So I think that peace of mind is one of the things that 79 owners normally like. For sure, and you can't deny that with Toyota. No. Toyota have a long reputation of reliability, and you can't take that away from them. Same thing, my 79.
And it's well deserved as well.
It is well deserved, for sure. I know when I was looking to buy a new car, I was leaning more towards Ram, because Ram have their 50-odd dealers now, Australia-wide, and it's a bit more comforting knowing that you have that as end up buying an F truck anyway, which there is no dealers throughout Australia. But to date, touch wood, haven't had any issues with mine. But the reliability side of some of these vehicles, we did touch on a little bit earlier about some new models like the next gen Ranger having some issues, but you look at N80 Hilux with Toyota, there's a class action against them at the moment with their DPF issues. So I think we need to not forget that every manufacturer, when they release a new model, starts to have some reliability issues. MY22 or 21 D-Max and BT50, they had issues, electronic issues, cars shutting down and things not working and all that kind of stuff. But still goes back to you can't take it away from Toyota. Good old 79 series, basic. You literally have to pay for a clock. I know when I bought mine, it might be different these days. They are trying to do a few more mod cons, and
I think they got cup holder standard now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just one. But.
You still only get one. I think they're obviously the new model 79's coming out. They're bringing it out in a auto.
Yep.
But it's only the 2.8 litre version. Don't get me wrong, 79 series, that's technically a military grade vehicle, but they've just taken the normal centre console and just put a gear shifter where the cup holder was. Come on, Toyota, you can do better than that. That's all. And why to this day, I don't know why Toyota. I know Australia is a small fraction globally in the automotive market for Toyota, but why they don't make a dual cab 300 series baffles me. But reliability side with some of the other platforms from Ford. Ford have got a decent history as well with the Rangers. Nico, you've got a PX3, mate.
Yeah. I can't fault the Ranger. It does what it needs to do. It would be absolutely fantastic to be able to tow as much as what you do in your car.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get there. Reliability side of things, there's little things, but I suppose I do push mine to sort of its limits.
It's got some extra fruit on it too, especially in the engine bay.
Yeah, it's got a bit of extra fruit in the engine bay. It all sort of helps with my application anyway and what I use it for. It's purpose built. I'm assume that most people thought when I bought TIFF, it was going to just look like a show pony for its life.
Yeah.
Well, it gets used for what it's meant for. It doesn't. There's not a single track I look at and I don't attempt to go down.
No, that's right. And Brendo, for those of you who don't know, Brendo's a mechanic by trade. He did his apprenticeship at a Mazda dealership, so Brendo bleeds Mazda.
Bit biased.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's probably why I have a Mazda, to be honest, is because I've seen the worst. And when you work at a dealership or when you see lots of these cars having issues, you really forget about how many vehicles are actually on the road.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you start to see common things. So one of the things, like with the early, the 3.2 BT50s and the PX1 and 2 Rangers as well, was the EGR coolers.
Yeah.
They sit so close and they feed right down to the auto trans, or heats up the auto trans, and that's why they were cooking auto trans boxes.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did when I bought my BT50 was
upgrade it
or
definitely didn't remove it. The EGR coolant, I just completely bypassed it. I made my own coolant lines and everything like that, and not once did I ever have a problem with high temps in the auto trans, which was a common problem. So I guess knowing the vehicle as well. But I'm with Nick. There's not one single track. I spent 10 months travelling Australia. I've been seeing everything in WA just about, and half of South Australia. There's not one track that I looked at and thought, I'm not going to go through that because the water's slightly too deep, or there's a few too many rocks in that sort of incline, you know, like same again, Gibb River Road. Some of the crossings, like in El Questro Station and that sort of thing, is up over the bonnet well and truly, and you open the door and all the water's gushing out and that sort of thing.
I didn't have that part. Touch wood, I did quite well.
But that's only when you get bogged in the middle.
I think I actually had 2 people sitting on the back of the tray because they didn't want to take they had a Subaru, Subaru Forester up there, you know, so I had 2 people sitting on the tray, and I drove through, and you know, there's not one point where I thought, nah, BT can't do that. You know what I mean?
That's
Whereas, you know, some of the tighter tracks you look at, like Brent, I don't know, like the Ram, there's many places, I guess, that you've been to where you've sort of gone, no, I don't want to, the scratches aren't worth it or something like that.
Well,
anyone says that.
Not necessarily. I might not be as
adventurous.
Yeah, that's probably the word, as you guys, but they aren't as big as what some people think, and when I say big, is in width wise. So when they say the American trucks are too big for the Aussie tracks and stuff like that, it's not the case. They are equivalent to a 200 series basically. So
essentially. So the canopy that we manufacture for a Chop 200 or a Chop 300 series is 1980mm overall in width, and it sits 4mm either side, past the widest point of the vehicle being the lower hip section around the wheel guard of the car. My canopy is 20 wide, so we're talking 40mm difference between a 200 or 300 series and an F truck. Now, if that was a Ram,
1500s, they're the same.
They're 1980. So the canopy that we manufacture for a Ram 1500 is 1980mm. Now, no one ever says that. They're trusty old 200 series. She never lets me down. They never say
too wide for any
that's
Aussie
too
track.
wide.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Yes, a Ram's probably longer, but you look at a Chop 200 series, man, that thing would be longer than what your stock car is.
Yeah, 100%. So the 1500 side of things, like in width wise and performance off road, I said, you might be a little bit. Well, I might be a little bit more protective of it, you know.
So am I.
In a way, but it's still got pinstripes, it's still got scratches, and
it's the type of touring that you're doing as well. Like when we were around, we didn't, I guess, park up at, you know, some of these places and stuff. A lot of the spots that we wanted to get to, you had to go through, some pretty hardcore sort of spots because they're the most isolated things. Whereas some of those places, Brent and Jimmy, you probably wouldn't want to take the caravan or...
We do, like even when we went to that trip to Queensland, me and Cole was kicking back. I spent 3 hours we took to get down, or 2 hours to get down one track. I spent 80% of that out the front with my 18-volt chainsaw. Doing a bit of trimming. Don't get me wrong, because when you do have something like that and you hear the of the pinstripes, it does make your blood boil. But
you had a Y62 Patrol or something, you'd be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
You know,
so if I had an old bloody GQ Patrol, I wouldn't care, mate. I'd send the bloody thing. So it comes down to what touring you're doing. That's all. So it's, I guess, the reliability of some of the other vehicles that we're looking at. Obviously, we've covered a bit of D-Max and BT50 with new models. The Rangers, the next gens have got the reliability there, or starting to. It will come with time. The other platforms like Rams, the reliability side of things for them, granted, a lot of people aren't flogging the guts out of a Ram 1500 or a 2500 and an F truck as much as some other platforms, but the reliability side of things is there with them as a general touring vehicle.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with mine. Whether that's off-road, and I do everything with mine. Tow the caravan everywhere we go. Then off-road, up beaches, up hills, whatever. Haven't had anything break or any problems. So,
and it comes down to what your planning on doing with the car. I know I have heaps of customers. People might watch Jason Simo on All for Adventure and think, oh, that's what I'm going to do with my car. But I guarantee you,
in reality,
there is a very small portion of people that would build a vehicle
and do that to it.
Hats off to you boys, mate. Awesome show. Love it. Love what you do. But for the average person, that's limited.
Yeah, putting that much money into something and then literally going at it that hard.
Yeah. We got our neighbour here.
Not too many people would do it.
Yeah, our neighbour here next to us at Core Offroad. He has one of Jace's Chop 200 series from I don't know which season it was.
The black one.
She's had a hard life. It's still
it's got very little K's on it.
And the other side of that is like he does use it for what it was intended for, and he does drive it hard, but in saying that, it's been in here a few times to have the whole thing completely stripped.
Yeah.
It's been swimming a few times.
It's been swimming where there's watermarks up the doors and all the electrical's gone. You got to rip it all out, and fix it all, and spend thousands and thousands of dollars because you've gone through one water hole and haven't made it.
Yeah.
And all these gremlins start coming out. So,
and even some of our customers as well, with them pushing their cars. We had a car, and this week one of our customers had the car for 2.5, 3 years. I think it had 55,000 Ks on it. It looked like it had 255,000 Ks on it. Some of our customers are building vehicles that isn't their daily driver. It's literally designed just as a touring vehicle. They just come back. I think they've done the Cape, and we've had our customers have done the Gib 2 or 3 times. They've had a hard life, and it starts to show with the car. That's all. But the reliability side of things is still there. Yeah. So I guess the next section, while we're talking about Rams, is fuel efficiency and range.
Or the lack of.
I don't know. This is such a big issue. Well, not a big issue. But such a
it's a hot topic.
Like the amount of messages I get about my fuel efficiency, and people say, "Really, honestly, what is it?"
Yeah.
Expecting to be bad, and some people are like, "Oh, that's not so bad." Some people are like, "Wow, that's huge," but in my opinion, it's equivalent to other platforms towing the same sort of thing. So I tow a 3-ton van, as I said before, and average we get 25 litres per 100. If I'm driving 27, 28 litres per 100 maybe. If Mrs. is driving 22, 23 litres per 100.
Yeah.
You put that alongside a 200 series.
Or very similar.
The same, or a YY62 or a 79 series, towing a 3-ton van, full-size van, the same thing.
Yep.
They're all around the same, or worse. So the myth that the Hemi V8, petrol V8 is more expensive to run, and at the moment, unleaded's cheaper than diesel.
Yep.
In most places.
Yep.
It's not that bad, and yes, you obviously got the range. Mine's got a 120 litre tank, so obviously you don't have a huge range. But even saying that too, depends where you're going. We just went all up the Coral Coast and Windrabandy and 14 Mile and all those sort of spots. There's nowhere where I was like, oh, I'm not going to get to that spot. There's that many fuel stations around that unless you're going through the centre of Australia or something like that, you have to really worry about that. Yeah, it might be inconvenient stopping all the time, but
and setting that vehicle up. Jody's car, for example. Jody's got a DT Ram 1500 run, a 6-inch lift and 37s. I swear every time I get in that car, the fuel light's on. She doesn't have a long range tank. Driving around town, going from home to work and work to school and back home.
But she can't reach up to the fuel filler.
Yeah, that's right. That's too high.
That's right. So that's the hubby's job.
Yeah, but running, I guess, that platform with a set of 37-inch tyres is going to zap or consume a hell of a lot more fuel. I think on Jode's dash, she's running 19 litres or 20 litres per 100 just driving around town.
I'll let you know because I got 6-inch lift and 37 sitting at home for it. So
it'll be interesting to
see. We'll see what difference it makes. Yeah, because around town I'll get 15, 16 litres per 100 without the van on.
Yeah,
cruising around town. So to me, it's not that bad for what it is, and it's miles per litre rather than miles per litre.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's going to get 6-inch and 37. So will give you some real comparison on fuel anyway.
Yeah. So I guess that fuel efficiency side of things, from everything I've heard about the new 300 series, they're bang on with efficiency compared to the previous 200 series. So, I've spoken to customers, I've spoken to other people, they're saying, we're a 200 series with their 3.5 tonne van was around that 25 litre per 100 mark, they're down to sort of 20 litres per 100.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a good thing. It's good for the end user, it's good for the customer, probably not so good for Ampol, but that side of things does make a hell of a difference.
But keep in mind too, I mean, we are going off a base 300 series.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone decides to chop the back end off of it and extend it and make it a tonne heavier and drop a canopy on it, and you can't really expect to get those figures that you're seeing on paper.
And it'll be the same thing, like even with Rangers. Personally, I haven't spoken to anyone who's had a V6 next gen Ranger. I would assume the fuel consumption side of things would be quite good with the next gen Ranger. Bang us a comment, let us know what size van you're towing, what vehicle you've got, and what fuel consumption you're getting. I know it's almost a forum for Ram owners, because it's kind of like, you got a Ram too? Oh yeah, what's your fuel consumption like? Only in the 1500 range.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think while we're on that, is the diesel side of things in the Rams with the 6.7 Cummins and all the other American trucks, the Duramax, the F trucks, with the Power Stroke. I think once you go to that diesel V8 turbocharged or the big 6 in the Ram turbocharged, the fuel efficiency isn't knocked around so much when you're towing something or when you've got a lot of weight on. So I'll lose 10 litres per 100 putting my van on the back. I think with the Rams and that, you don't lose. You would know what's the difference.
So I go from towing our vans probably on the high end of 3.5 tonne, if not a little bit more, where I was doing 21, 22 litres per 100, maybe 23, compared to driving around town on probably 18. So
you don't lose as much, maybe 5 litres per 100 rather than 10 litres per 100. So something to keep in mind if you are towing, and that fuel efficient side of it.
Yeah, for sure. And it depends how you drive it too. With a Ram 1500 or a Ranger or any car, you drive it like a maniac. It's going to burn fuel. I know with my F truck, if I take off at the lights because I have a Ram 1500 beside me and I want to see how everything goes, my fuel efficiency goes off the Richter scale. So it also depends how you're driving it. But I bought my vehicle as a tourer and to tow, so that suits what I'm using it for.
Yeah, I mean, if the people out there, are towing a van full time or looking to purchase a car that they can tow a van full time, that's something to, I suppose, consider as well. I mean, cost versus diesel versus petrol. I mean, that's
Nico, you'd see it all the time with customers coming to hire vans off of you guys.
Absolutely.
That platform side of things, and you're towing vans constantly in a range of different sizes that you guys have got with the business. I guess, some feedback even from you. What are most customers towing?
No, we do feedback, get a lot of feedback from customers, and I tell you what, like the most popular, I suppose we would see, would be your Prado. So align that with like a Hilux or something like that. But I mean, if you're looking to save in the hip pocket, I suppose, then you would go for one of those smaller dual cab utes, because I mean, from my experience, if I put a bigger van on, I'll be sitting around 17 to 17.5 litres to the 100. So I mean, which is quite considerably less than, I suppose, a petrol V8 like Brent was saying, or a diesel like yours. But in saying that too, it's a big weight difference.
The biggest thing I noticed on that towing side of things, going from my 79 series, and I had a 200 series before that, it wasn't chopped, it was just a wagon. I'd do a trip from here to Exmouth, or we'd go from here to Gladstone Camp, for example, and stop the night and then go the next morning. Doing 10 or 12 hours in my 79 with our van on the back, when I got out of the car, I felt it. Not so much for the comfort side of things, I was forever concentrating on driving the actual car, and depending on what the road was like or where we were, I was forever, not correcting, but I was forever just concentrating on what we were doing. So the big thing with the F truck now, one, you don't feel the caravan on the back of the car.
Yep.
And 2, I get out of it after doing that long trip and I'm not concentrating. The thing tracks really well, and it's something we're talking about before this episode started, was the longer wheelbase
Yep.
of a US truck, or even a Chop 300 series, for example, or 200 series, or Ram, and the extra little bit of width does stabilise that
Absolutely. It's
car when you're towing.
a much better, I suppose, for you mentally as well.
Yeah.
I mean, which then boils down to it's going to be much safer for you to get your family where you want to go as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get from A to B with half the fatigue, then I think you're in a much better place.
Even when I was driving back from Queensland after the Brizzy show earlier in the year, one thing I noticed, I was smashing the K's out, driving home to get home, almost beat Jody and the kids flying home. When I was driving at night time, the thing that I noticed, the amount of cars that their headlights were in my eyes, and they probably copped it back from me because my headlights are quite high off the ground. When the car would go past a little D-Max, for example, that probably didn't have the correct suspension, but it had a 3.5 ton van on the back, and the back of the car was sacked out, so the headlights were hammering me in the eyes driving back. So it comes back to setting your vehicle up correctly. And the old rule of thumb is that your tow vehicle should weigh more than whatever you're towing. That's, you get a bog stock D-Max, which, what are we running for an Isuzu in a tear weight or a curb weight?
Would be around 222.
2045. Is that right?
Yeah, so even like a...
Yeah, weight 2045.
Yeah. Towing a 3.5 ton van.
Yeah, there's no way, like, people do it.
Yeah.
Personally, like, I've got a 1500. What's my 1500? My 1500 is 2620.
Yeah. It's a bit closer.
Bit closer.
Yeah.
And normally I have a water bladder on the back, so I'm probably close to 3 ton.
Yeah.
And I tow a 3 ton van.
Yeah.
That to me is comfortable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to tow my van with a smaller car.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Yeah. You look at Cole with his 100 series.
Yeah.
Cole, the cameraman. Cole's got a 100 series cruiser, bog stock, nothing done to it.
Tows a 9.5 ton boat.
Yeah. Cole tows a boat that's nearly 4 tons. So when Cole starts to go around a corner, the car goes straight, that's all, and not around the corner. So Cole's, sitting on 90 k's an hour.
You have 30 litres per 100.
Yeah, burning 30 litres per 100. That's with a tailwind.
Yeah, and the aircon off.
Yeah, and the aircon off. So having a vehicle, and that's one thing we've been talking to Cole about. Cole's potentially looking to buy a new car, and Cole would be in that range of, budget, what's going to suit what Cole's towing. Really,
legally too.
Mate, you're in the 100 to 150 range, my friend. You can't get out of that, that's all. So
but I mean, a bit of experience coming from me as well, I suppose, that you need to when it comes down to your weights as well. I mean, the Ranger's capable of towing 3.5 ton.
Yeah.
Would I tow 3.5 ton all day every day if I was travelling full time? Not a chance in the world.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the Ranger's got heavy duty suspension on it, but a lot of people are jumping in a bog stock Ranger Hilux. They can tow 3.5 ton. They're putting it on the back.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, like the stresses coming from driving that would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, you take a next gen Ranger, right? So we've got specs here. So XLT pickup, dual cab in the V6 version, 10-speed auto. We've got 995 kilos of payload from factory. So let's say our 3.5 ton van has the old rule of thumb, 10% of the ATM.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're going to have 350 kilos of ball weight.
Yep.
So you're already down to nearly 600 kilos of payload.
That doesn't take long to go.
It doesn't take long to go. Now, WA DOT state that it's 68 kilos per person on average for occupants. So you talk about 5 people in the car, do you know what I mean, with some luggage and everything like that. Without doing anything to that car, you have next to no payload left. So that's without a tank of fuel as well. That's bog stock tyres.
That's not even a bull bar on the car.
That's right. So, and there is other videos on our channel about where we talk about, accessories and payloads and everything like that. So if you're watching this one, tyre weights and tyre sizes and how some of that stuff affects your car. But if you are looking at purchasing a new video and you're watching this video, make sure you go and check out some of our other ones on the channel, because we do cover some other sections that aren't readily spoken about.
Absolutely.
That's all. So performance side of things, look, going through the specs, I'm still going back to that next gen Ranger or an Amarok.
Absolutely.
In that V6 version, for the performance side of things, you know, you can have as much power under the sun that you want, but it's the torque as a touring vehicle is what is going to help you the most. Whether you are on the beach or you're towing something, it's the torque that's going to be the big factor. And 600 Newton meters of torque from standard for that new next gen V6 platform, it's hard to go past. 79 series, I know they do produce a hell of a lot more torque than the prescribed 430 Newton meters. I know mine running 35s had around 750 at the wheels, not at the flywheel, which would probably have been close to 900 at the flywheel in reality. So the reason why Toyota do that is that their clutch is
not good.
Not good.
So yeah, and that's right. Like every 79 that we don't do a tune without a clutch.
Yeah.
And all the tunes we have done are over 700 Newton meters.
Newton meters, yep.
So, and that's at the hubs. So
yeah. And even that 4JJ engine with the D-Max and the BT50, like getting good numbers out of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and safe numbers. You know, I know Davo from Modified, who does all of our performance stuff. He's got his 4J there that they're doing up as a drag car, and it's not straight into it and things like that. That's probably not reliable as a tourer. Even TIFF, when it was first done, you know, pushing 290 odd kilowatts at the wheels with that tune, yes, it's been wound back. That's all for reliability, but most of these vehicles that we're talking about, I think the only one really is the next gen Ranger. Is the only one that isn't getting tuned regularly, because I think people are still working out how to get into the thing.
And a lot of people, I mean, if you can buy a vehicle off the production floor, that is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why they the numbers, you know, of sales sort of speak for themselves.
Even with 79s and 200s, like I know to get out of a 200 series, it's not an issue to get 1,000 Newton meters out of a 200 series. You know, so, but what are you sacrificing in reliability to get that performance?
Oh, absolutely.
That's all. Like my F truck, I was going to get it tuned. I've since changed my mind because I don't want to mess around with that factory setup. Some of the guys in the States, you know, they're getting 1 million miles out of that as standard. And it's one thing, they've already got plenty of power.
Yeah, do you need more to do?
Do you need more to do what we're doing with it?
And that's the thing with those, same as with the Rams, I feel like, you know, and the Duramaxes, they make that much torque from factory.
You don't have to touch it.
You don't have to touch it. Yeah, if you want to, go for it. Like, happy days, but you don't have to. Nope. Like, where with a 79, if you put a bit of weight on it and then tow a van,
it's a slug.
So
it's ridiculous. They're literally the slowest vehicle that you could possibly purchase.
And that's one of the reasons I got out of I had an MP300 and it was tuned and it was wound right up. But towing, I was into it all the time, and I didn't do it, but it was a case of how long is this thing going to last with me pushing it this hard to tow my caravan at 100 k's an hour.
Yeah.
It was really highly strung, so it went away from it to something that did it more comfortable.
And like transmission too is another thing that you need to factor in. Most vehicles are running that 6-speed auto or 5-speed, some majority are 6. Some of the bigger vehicles are running 10-speed, Ram's got 8.
Yep, 8
so
speed.
Having more gears is something to factor into, because every engine has a sweet spot where it produces the most amount of torque. So, you know, same thing going back to the next gen range, like 10-speed auto. That's hard to go past.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so having them 10 gears and keeping that vehicle in that sweet spot, I know with my F truck, it'll skip gears. So it might start off in second. If I'm not towing anything, I go from second to 5th, then 5th to 8th, and then 8th to 10th. And it'll skip gears because it's got the torque to push it.
Yep.
As whereas the next gen Ranger may not do that high of a sequence when it's changing gears in the transmission, but it's keeping that engine
in the sweet spot.
In the sweet spot that's most suitable for the car. So Transmission might be another thing.
Mine will skip gears on the way down.
Yeah.
So mine will go from like 8th to 5th if you put
And redline. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to put a screw through the dash where your tacho is, just to stop it from going in to the bit that draws heaps of fuel, mate. That's all. So when you need it, just undo the screw and let the tacho go all the way around. But yes, in one of our other videos, we touched on Rams. Is it a suitable touring platform? So if you're looking at a Ram, go and watch that video. But we had Scotty, who's one of my mates and one of our customers as well. Scott had come from a BT50 2014 model and bought himself a Ram 1500. I think it was a bit of a culture shock for Scotty.
He struggled in the beginning.
Yeah, he struggled in the beginning because you go from a diesel engine that produces plenty of torque to a petrol engine which has got plenty of power but not much torque. They're chalk and cheese, So I think Scotty's wife nearly killed him based on how much fuel they were using at the start, but now he's settled in and driving the vehicle's different to how you would drive a diesel. They don't labour. So a petrol engine, you're not going to be able to use the torque to keep ticking along. It's then going to drop gears, like Brent's saying, rev its guts out to try and find that sweet spot to try and get the most power out of the engine as possible. So I think that's about it for the performance side of things. If there is any questions or you guys have got anything else, make sure you smash in a comment. Let us know. If we can try and answer it for you, for sure. And we'll get straight into the next section.
I look good, yeah, you know I look